You ready, Keith? Not yet. I love your new Facebook profile photo with the coffee.
Oh, yeah, that's so,
It's so fun. Ready? Okay. Hang it.
Well, hi guys, welcome. Sorry for a little bit of a delayed start with some technical difficulties, but this is our new agent mastermind. I've got a couple of agents that have been in the business for year, 2 years, have had some great levels of success that are going to come up here and answer some questions for you guys. So why don't you all come on up and we'll get the introduction started. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, let me start right here. Darrel, why don't you tell us who you are, how long you've been in the business, and what you did before real estate?
Yeah, so Darrel Flores, I've been licensed since March of 2020. Before getting into real estate, I worked in sales, direct sales at one point, and then I got into sports sales. Once the pandemic happened, I kind of just transitioned into real estate.
Okay.
Rolle, I've been in the business since October 2020, and prior to real estate, I was in banking.
Okay.
Everette, Forrest, I've been in real estate since 2019, and prior to that, I was in the hospital field.
Okay.
So after the pandemic happened, that's when I started to really go harder with the real estate.
Excellent, excellent. So a lot of different backgrounds here and a lot of different levels of success. So Darrel, we'll start with you again. What was your biggest challenge in your first year in real estate, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, my biggest challenge was just trying to get over the fact that, you don't need to know everything to kind of get started. I think at first, as new agents, we kind of feel like we have to figure everything out, but, in the reality of things, you're not really going to learn anything until you actually start doing it, right? So I think that was my biggest challenge, was kind of just getting out there. Once I figured out that I felt like I knew enough, or at least told myself that, I actually took action at that point.
Awesome, building that confidence and knowing you're taking care of your client. But we hear it all the time in real estate, perfection is the enemy of great. So we're never all going to know everything. So you better get started, right? Jay, same question for you. What was your first year challenges, and how did you overcome that?
I'll say the major challenge was overanalyzing things to the point where it caused me to be more emotional with my mindset. So for instance, like with clients, just every client that I had, especially in the beginning, it was just everything was fed into them emotionally. I only focused on that one client. And if anything went astray, I would question myself or overanalyze the situation instead of just kind of not treating it like a transaction or a business, but understanding that it is a business at the end of the day. So for me, it was just being too emotionally invested to the point where I overanalyzed my skills and what I could do for the client.
Ride that emotional roller coaster with the client.
Definitely.
Yeah, it'll drain you every time. What did you do? Did you take classes, or how did you overcome being so emotionally involved?
Just tapping into my mentorship. Well, with my mentor, he kind of really just honed in on it and allowed me to see things differently as far as how I approach every situation and how I analyze every situation, kind of like, just calm it down a little bit, Jay. But also over time, it helped itself out because I had more clients to focus on, to where I was like, okay, well, I know this deal isn't going to work, but I already have another deal in the pipeline, or I know I could take care of you, but I also got this one to take care of as well. But one of the bigger things is the brokerage office here. Like, I really love the people here, the talent here, and they were really forthcoming and kind of surrounding around me and kind of always instilling that positivity and affirmation. So that was a big one.
Yeah, this office will not let you get negative on yourself.
Not at all.
Not even a little bit. Everett, same question. What are your first year challenges, and how'd you overcome them?
My first year challenge was a little bit different from them. Like my first year challenge was learning the business. I needed to know how to, I had to learn the business in order to be great. So I was still working, working at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. And I didn't have the time to learn how to write a contract or go into script practice, but I knew that I had to make time. I knew that these things had to be prioritized in order for me to be good, in order for me to know what I wanted to do later on in life. So I started to learn the business more, take weekends off. Even though I'm supposed to be showing, I was doing script practice with myself, or calling one of my mentors and asking them questions. So that was one thing with me, just learning the business more. And also, like Jay said, getting my feelings out of the business, because I used to get attached to these clients, and my heart was in it. And sometimes you gotta learn to just let it go. But after I learned to let things go, things started to smooth out more for me.
Yeah, that emotional side of it.
Mhm.
So that was like twofold for you with the technical side of it and the emotional side of it kind of holding you back. And that's a great point, Everett, that you started as a dual career agent, because I know a lot of the folks that are going to be listening to this or watching this are going to be in that same position and realizing that, it is a challenge, but you have to build that time into your schedule to do the contract work, the script practice, the grind work of real estate, right?
Sometimes you gotta stay up 3 o'clock in the morning and learn your business, but you gotta do it. Because if you don't know the business, how you gonna be great?
Excellent point. Let's stay on you, Everett, for the next question. Where did your first client come from?
It came from Ojo. Not Ojo. What's it called again? Op City.
Okay.
We signed up for Op City in this office, and my first client was like $37,000.
That's that paycheck we're looking
It was like
for.
$37,000. So I'm not even gonna lie and make it seem like it was some big type of commission or anything, but I knew that first client was gonna set it off, because somebody just wants to see you start doing business. If a person don't see you doing business, they're not gonna want to do business with you. So I knew that the first client was gonna start generating more business for me, and I took it. Even though it was a little commission check, I still took it and I ran with it. And then for it just followed up from there.
And we've had agents that started their first client releases. You're getting a $200 commission, maybe. But you're getting that, like you said, that experience. You're in the work, you're doing real estate, you're in the field, people are seeing you do it. So Op City, 37,000.
Gotta sign up.
Like
Op City.
Jay, where did your first client come from?
Well, before I say that, I want to say that's kind of cool though, because it's mindset, right? So even though it was 37,000, no one watching you knows that it was 37,000. That was your first deal. That was your first closing. I got my first closing. We're taking pictures. We're doing all of this because now people are like, oh, Everett's legit. He's a real estate agent. Okay, he can do business. So it's all about the mindset and the perception. So that's
Great
dope.
point. Great point.
For me, my first client was my line sister from my sorority, Delta Sigma Theta. But it came a couple of months after I had first started, actually about a month after I had kind of advertised my transition into real estate. She hit me up and said, hey, we're considering selling our house. And I was like, what, a listing in this market? Like, that's my first deal. And it was like crazy. The hardest transaction I've had thus far in my career. But it was amazing. It was the cornerstone and it really kind of set everything up. And after that, it just started bleeding down. So my first came from within my SOI, and it was really kind of close to home.
Let me ask you this as a follow-up question. How did you connect with her? What platform did you let her know you were on real estate, or how did she find out that you would be the person to list the house that she was thinking about?
So when I kind of came out, I did a really big, like, this is it, boom. So I fully transitioned into real estate full-time from my banking transition. So I had this big social media blast. It was on my 35th birthday when I decided to actually announce that I was going to be in real estate. So I was going hard on social media. Of course, I sent personal text messages to what would have been her, because she's my line sister. So she's just like a sister. So it was like, hey guys, I'm now a real estate agent and things like that. But I announced that in November. I didn't hear from her until like in December. So it wasn't like an immediate thing. I just kept pushing out my information, and she just called me one day like, hey, we're thinking about selling our house.
So you went to your sphere of influence, you stayed in contact with them regularly, and somebody
Absolutely.
had a listing.
Yep, follow up or just blasting it.
Sphere of
Funny how
influence,
these things
contact,
work.
stay in contact. Awesome. And Darrel, same question. Where did your first client come from?
My first client was a FSBO. So it was just a cold call. I went out, I met, the lady. I followed up a couple of times. Even though it was my first client, I think we signed our listing agreement in January. We didn't close until March. I mean, And that's just the new agents, right? As I mentioned, you don't have to know everything. I priced the house wrong and whatnot, but I got it, I got a contract, which is, I guess back to your first question is just telling yourself that you know enough. I mean, you know enough to go out there and get business, whether you price it right, whether you know how to write the contract, there's support in the office to kind of help with those things. I want to say even when I uploaded it to Command, a lot of it was just flagged, but
Yeah, right.
I got into the office. And,
Casey's in her office laughing out loud
yeah,
right
so,
now.
I
Here
got in
she
the
is.
office and, I kind of, got help from Deanna, Casey and whatnot, Alicia as well. And funny story about that, I feel like if you just go out there and just call people and get in front of people and do business, even if you do it wrong, there's always going to be somebody to help you. Because I called Alicia when I did my listing contract, and I messed up the commission part. Like I put that the seller was going to pay the selling broker 3%, and then the selling broker was going to pay the buyer's broker 3%. And she was like, "You're about to give away all your commission."
Yeah, I did that.
And I was like,
So I was like,
I've done that too.
and I didn't know, right? But I only say that to say, like, you don't have to know all these things because it's gonna get. And I'm not saying just to go out there, clueless, but just go out there and get business, because it doesn't matter if you know how to write a contract. If you can't get business, no point on knowing how to write a contract. You got to go, be able to go out there and get clients. But my first deal was a FSBO. We had to reduce the price a couple of times, but we eventually got it sold. She's still in my, in my spirit now. She actually took me to dinner after we closed, and there's two more deals that she wants to sell before, the next year up. So, yeah, I would just say just get out there and just start talking to people.
So cold calling, is that how you got to the FSBO?
Yep.
Okay, so we got cold calling, sphere of influence, and working with a partner. So all these first transactions came from very different lead sources, but all of them work at the end of the day. Like they all got closed in one way or another. And thankfully you got your commission.
Right.
get to the table.
Right.
So let me ask you this, that was where your first client came from. Where does most of your business come from now?
I would say same aspect, whether it's, FSBOs, absentee owners as well, and expired. I would say that's where I kind of started, but once you get a listing, obviously, you just leverage those things out. So my first listing, even though I got the listing, it didn't close for a couple of months. I picked up 3 buyers from the first open house. So obviously I closed on those deals throughout the year as well. I took a rental listing early on too. And when I circled prospect for the open house, somebody around the block said, "Hey, we're actually thinking about our house." And when I met her and her husband, it was kind of probably the smoothest listing presentation ever. I mean, they signed her on the spot. And we ended up listing that property for sale. And obviously same thing, open house, picked up another buyer. So yeah, I would just say cold calling, people that have a need. Obviously FSBOs are looking to sell a property, expireds already decided they wanted to sell, but they failed at it. And then absentee owners, there's not really a need there, but during the pandemic with the whole moratorium, a lot of these guys that had these properties wanted to get rid of them just because they had tenant in there that wasn't paying rent. And if it's an absentee owner that's not an LLC, they're probably not this big experienced real estate investor with hundreds of properties. It's probably somebody who bought a house, they bought a second property, and they thought that being a landlord was going to be something very lucrative for them. Come to find out they're only making $300. It's probably more of a headache after paying off the mortgage and collecting rent. And then during the moratorium, a lot of people just weren't paying rent. So the rental lead was actually an absentee owner. Lady just had a house vacant. She didn't want to put another tenant in there just because she was scared they weren't going to pay rent. And we ended up listing that after we rented it out for 6 months.
Okay.
So that actually was a rental, but then it also turned into a sale at some point.
So you didn't walk away from the rental because even though that commission was going to be minimal, because you knew you could build on that business later and have that.
In a rental listing, obviously a lot of us don't work rentals because it's like, I don't want to drive a buyer around to go find a rental, make a couple $100, but a rental listing, I mean, I didn't do much. So I just put it online, and it was a furnished rental. So it was kind of a different situation. It was furnished, but in her HOA, she couldn't do Airbnb. So we did a corporate housing kind of situation. An insurance company paid her $4,000 a month for 6 months for the house. So, and then we negotiated 50% of the first month's rent. So it was still $2,000 commission, but it was still a rental. And then after those 6 months, she didn't want any kind of tenant. She was like, let's just sell it, market. Obviously, the house appreciated. So we ended up putting it on the market for sale.
So I'm hearing your business model kind of start with that cold calling, continue with the cold calling, to build on more clients, but take those clients that you have and leverage them out.
Yeah. And I mean, I knew that from the beginning. I don't want to go on too much of a tangent, but I'm not from Georgia, so I knew that a big database kind of thing wasn't going to be something that I could probably rely on too much. From high school to college was all in New York, and then when I moved down here, I didn't have much of I guess a database. And I just didn't, I really just didn't want to like have to call my friends and family and say, like, I just didn't want to do that. I wanted them to be like, oh, I see you doing business. Like, how's real estate going? So I just wanted to go after people who needed our services, right? If Fiscal's looking to sell a house, I sell houses. So, why not work together? So
Is that your cold call pitch?
No, but
You need me, I need you.
right. But it's kind of like, a lot of times, we're trying to educate somebody that's probably not even in the realm of buying or selling, which I'm not saying that's not a route to go, because at some point you got to nurture those relationships. But I needed business at the moment. I had to stop working on my other job, and I'm like, they're looking to sell right now. I'm looking to sell a house right now. So I'm gonna go meet them, introduce myself, and if next week it hasn't sold, they're obviously having a little bit of trouble. I'll just keep following up and go from there. And then just obviously, use that as leverage and build upon it.
Let me just pause for 1 second. I would know you started as dual career. Did both of you start as dual career as well? You transitioned right from banking, like cold stop.
Yeah. Yeah. When I got my license, I had another job, but I didn't do anything within real estate because I had started the first month of the pandemic. So it was kind of a little odd, like, I had got a license here.
Changing.
Yeah. And, the office was shut down. So I'm like, all right, well, we'll see what happens when all this stuff clears. So I had another job, but then I want to say November came. I had to stop working at the other job. And then, I had a decision to make whether I was going to get another job or just kind of get into real estate. And that's when I started. And then I got that first listing in January. So it took me about 2 months.
Okay.
And they didn't sell, as we talked about, for like another 2 months. So
you made it.
right.
You're on the roll now. Okay, Jay, how about you? Where does most of your business now come from?
SOI. I am a Georgia girl. I've been here all my life, so I have a good database to kind of stem from. So all of my business has come from my sphere. And the way I kind of attacked it is through guilt trips or whatever, but that's what I used to do. Because what was funny was, so I got licensed in October. Of course, I didn't really publicize it to November. My sister closed on her home in October. So I was like, I'm in real estate school. Can you just wait? And she was like, no. And I was like, cool, bet. So when I got my license, I was like, okay, well, you just put out this big, oh, we bought a house and our realtor is great, da, 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 da. I said, okay, so that's good. But going forward, if anybody asks you, you need to be like, yeah, but my sister's a real estate agent, or my sister is a beast, or whatever. And she did that. And she sent me outside of my first client. She pretty much branched me out. She works in the medical field. She told all of her homegirls, everyone there. She sent me literally 3 solid referrals that I'm actually closing on this month because they were new construction. And out of those 3, they sent me like 2 each. And it just like came this tree because like it's in the medical field. So all of them talk nurses, RNs, and respiratory therapists. So I just honed in on that specifically and allowed that to branch out my business. So all of it has been within the SOI or referrals from someone in the SOI.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. All right, Everett, same question for you. Where does the majority of your business come from now?
Well, I'm not a Georgia person,
Okay.
so I'm from New York. So I already knew that I had to start meeting people. But one thing about me is I really don't like to mix and mingle with everybody. I like to, I'm kind of, to myself. But I said, I got to get out my comfort zone. And one thing about getting out my comfort zone was, while I joined the team, I'm on the team as well in here, ATRG. And we also get a lot of leads as well. But also most of my leads will come from my sphere of influence and social media as well. Because sometimes you don't think somebody's watching, but they are definitely watching. And trust me, one day they are going to slide in your DM and say, I need a house.
Yeah.
And then also I got people like my fiance who's also in social media as well. And she also contributes to putting me on some of my business as well.
Excellent. So a lot of social media focus. I love that point that even if you don't know people are watching, they're watching. Whether you're doing it right or you're doing it wrong, they're watching.
They're
One way or the
watching.
other, right? Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. So let's go to Jay first on this one. We're mixing it up. What are the top 2 or 3 habits you think contributed to your early success?
Habits. Okay, so, and it's funny you say that because I'm like really trying to get better habits going into year 2. But I will say my social media presence, like having a consistency with that was something I had to build into, because prior to, I was on social media, but I was like, what do they call them? The Facebook stalker or IG stalker. Like I just went on there to post about my kids so family couldn't say, well, I didn't know about this or that, or I just looked at other people's lives. But this year I have been on social media. It's exhausting, but it is very much productive and it's very much necessary. So that is a habit I built into my business, to be on social media every day. My follow-up is a habit. I've always had a pretty good sense of follow-up, but not a follow-up that has a system, if that makes sense. So I come from a business or industry that you have to follow up. Running a financial center, I get all the clients that need a follow-up. They have to come to the manager, right? So my follow-up was very like with genuine intent. I would just scroll through a phone or be on social media and follow up that way. Or if anyone said anything, I would literally put it on my calendar and say, Darrel said to talk to him in 2 weeks about this. Or you talk to Darrel this week, I put it on my calendar in 30 days to talk to Darrel, and it'll just pop up on my my little Google Calendar or whatever. So that, and then prioritizing. I did, that was a habit that I had kind of made. Like I don't have good time management skills, because when I'm on the hustle and grind, I kind of just go at it, and I will be showing a house all day, all night if I have to. I will go to a football game, then leave to go show a house and go back to a football game. I'll set the expectation with my clients that I am in football gear. But that part I do want to work on going into year 2, but I did prioritize whether it was family time or focusing on the business. I was able to maneuver that pretty well. So
Excellent.
social media follow-up and prioritizing.
That schedule, right? Yeah, it's one of the things they tell you very first start, and right when you write your schedule for the year, right? Schedule your family time, schedule your vacation before you
Right.
schedule your clients,
It can get interesting.
because you can lose all of your time if you're not careful in this
That is
business. Everett, what's the question? Top 2 or 3 habits that helped you in the first year or so?
Oh, the top 3 habits that helped me in the first year was script practice. A lot of script practice. It's kind of different from what Jay it does, but like she said, prioritizing, making sure that my house is good, because I'm a person, if my house isn't good, I can't focus. So making sure my house is good, 1, script practice, just come to the office. Starting coming to the office more, because when you're around other people seeing them, how they work and their success, it makes you want to have more success. And then you're around other people, you can ask questions. So that was my top 3 things that started to just making sure my house is good, prioritizing my household, script practice, and just come to the office.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think all 3 of you did pretty early on, was participating in the office activities, even working when you were doing dual career, making time to come here and be surrounded by the people that are successful and want to help you. And like Darrel said, fix your contract and do all those sorts of things, that you're confident with that. And I think that's probably why I was comfortable to ask y'all to come up here today.
You're already here. Just come at a
See
certain
ya.
time.
Darrel done, me and we always laugh about this, and I always tell Hank and Alicia knows my first contract, that $37,000 took me a whole, what it took me about since 8 o'clock to like 11 o'clock in the night. We was going through, I didn't know what a cash exhibit was. I didn't know how to put certain contingencies. I'm like, just writing, going blank. And then I sent to Alicia, and she was like, this is completely wrong. Check. By the time she sent it back, because she got an Android. So by the time she sent by the time she sent it back, I'm looking at all these checks like, I got to go through all of this. And she's like, yeah. And so that was just my thing. Just riding up with Darrel, just it's difficult at first, but as you get the hang of it, everything becomes smoother.
I also say, just since we're speaking to new agents, how important that is to be present, or just in this respect, be in the office. I knew that early on, right? Just family reunion, I think, was the first time I was really able to come to something because everything was virtual. So I knew the importance of that. And I won't call this particular agent out, but in speaking with an agent, and when I spoke to her, I was like, well, it's virtual, so you don't have to come. You just get online and stuff like that. But then when I kind of stayed with that agent and how she was moving in her career, I was like, just show up. Just start coming to the meetings, start coming to the offices. If you can in any way, schedule it to come here every week for team meetings and just see how that transforms your business. And I'm not sure if it's transformed her business for a numbers perspective, but it has transformed her mindset to where she's like back in the game. So for the new agents that I'm not telling you what to do or how to do it, but if you can, when you can, just show up, come here, and you will get what you need from this office. I cannot speak to other brokerages. I've done it on my lives, and I said, if I was not at KW Tucker, I probably wouldn't be at KW. I'll be very honest with you. But just come to this office, to Tucker, be present. And I'm pretty sure if you ask some of the newer agents that do come, you will probably get that positive response that we have.
I think that's one of the things that people don't realize getting into real estate. You know, they see the HGTV, they see the top agents, whatever. They don't realize when you're brand new, it's easy to get isolated if you don't surround yourself with the right people. It's easy to feel like you're the only one going through these struggles. And that's why I wanted to get all your perspective today. So appreciate that. And a quick plug, contracts class on Friday. Contracts class on Friday. So you don't do what these guys did.
Go to class.
It will be online as well. Top 2 or 3 habits that contributed to your early success.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off one of them, right, which is coming to the office. That definitely helped out a lot. You know, just being around, you know, people that are like-minded, and not only just being around people, but I feel like it's a sense of accountability as well, right? And, you know, not only accountability, but, you know, brings out the competitive nature in you as well. If you see people coming in and they're closing and whatnot, I mean, if you're staying at home and you're kind of just working, you don't know what's happening, right? But you see that, you know, people are closing, you kind of just get on your A game a little bit more. And then also just, listening to podcasts, audiobooks, and things of that nature, right? I probably listen to, I don't want to say every podcast there is on real estate, but it's always playing in my car if I'm coming to work, anything along those lines. I mean, I don't put on the radio or anything like that. And just being a new agent, I mean, that helps, right? Because, you know, as I mentioned, we don't know everything, and we're not going to until you kind of just get in the game. But the more you can educate yourself and just kind of just listen to things, you know, during your downtime, some things stick, right? And then you kind of just have it in your tool belt. So whenever the question does arise, you have something that you can, you know, answer the question with.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, Everette mentioned, you know, doing script practice, but listening to podcasts is kind of the same concept. You're just building your brain to have that conversation be around real estate. And then when everybody talks about anything else, all you can think about is real estate. Any top podcasts you'd recommend for the folks watching?
Yeah, I'm gonna do a Keller Williams plug and Think Like a CEO by Gary Keller.
He might be a smart guy.
Yeah. There's Always Bigger Pockets, which is a huge you know, real estate investing kind of thing. But as long as you understand, I mean, obviously it's not going to really talk much about traditional sales on Bigger Pockets, but I mean, real estate is real estate. If you understand the game, obviously the part of being an agent is handling the transaction. So those would probably be my top 2.
Excellent. Excellent. Switch gears a little bit and ask you this, because I think this is a fear new agents can have. Did anybody ever ask you, and how did you overcome? How long have you been in real estate, or are you new?
I actually never got that question asked to me. If I did get the question asked, I mean, I would just, you know, and I think we all know the answer, you know, hey, look, you know, I'm not as busy as an agent that, you know, may be doing 100 transactions a year. So, you know, your property is going to be something that is going to be my main focus, and I'm going to be in and day out. You can contact me whenever you guys have any kind of questions. You're not going to speak to an assistant or 5 different people before getting in contact with me. But however, I never got that question. And to be honest, I don't really think that question comes up as much as we think it does, you know? And I think if it does, you probably showed your inexperience, you know, at the appointment or something along those lines.
You laid it out there.
Yeah, because to me that comes off as a negative connotation, right? It's like, you're the agent, how long have you been selling real estate? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't, and I don't know what, what it could be. Funny story, my first FSBO had an agent before she went FSBO, and she fired her agent, and her exact words like, I don't know what was wrong. Everything was just sloppy. She must be a new agent. And I was like,
She must be.
yeah, she must be. I don't know what's her problem. And I still listed the house, right? So she didn't even come off and think that I was a new agent. But I also don't think that I give off that impression. I mean, I wear a jacket every time I go meet a new client. And I don't think that everybody has to, but I think just being in my 20s and whatnot, I'm not selling houses to a bunch of 25-year-olds. Like, a lot of people that you go see that's a FSBO might be, an older person along those lines. So it's just a form of respect, just showing respect. Like, hey, I'm serious about potentially listing your house, right? Obviously, that's not the conversation we're having yet, but I just want to come off as a professional, so they don't even think to ask me like, oh, this young guy is coming over here, and I'm going to give him, the responsibility of selling my biggest asset. So yeah, I mean, I don't think the question comes up as much, but if it did come up, that's how I would answer it.
Okay. Jay, anybody ever asked you if you were new?
God, yes. Not in the respect of you walk into the situation and like, oh my God, you're new. Like, how long have you been in real estate? It was never that, but it was always, how long have you been licensed, or how long have you been doing real estate? So for me, I just didn't answer the question. Like, I just rerouted the conversation. Now that's a skill that I have, but I was just, if I answered it head on, I would be like, I've been in the industry for a couple of years, because I was in banking. I was looking into real estate investing. I mean, I have the skills. So I just diverted the conversation because I knew the intent behind it. And for me, it wasn't more so ill-willed. It was just them asking. So I just didn't really entertain it, because I knew there's a big misconception when it comes to newer agents and older agents. I have agents who, every time I pull a contract or look at a listing, I look at their license number just to see what I'm up against. And I did that early on because I'm very analytical, but I learned that it doesn't really even matter. I've schooled agents who have been in the game longer than me. I've schooled agents that have been in the game longer than me.
Because
I
I don't
don't
take
take
up with
that-
education.
Right, but I don't take that as a, oh, I'm all this, because I'm not, right, at all, by any means, but
You're all
I use it as, privately I am, but I don't like it, exacerbate that. So I use it as a way to just educate and do that, but it's crazy how that misconception is. So for newer agents, like, it doesn't matter if your number starts with a 4 or 3 or 2 or a 1. Everyone has an opportunity. And if I'm really gloating on us or myself, y'all can't touch our hustle game. Y'all cannot touch our grind. These newer agents that are out here now are killing it. Look at Kurt. He just posted a listing in Grayson. I have $1 million home, and I'm like, yeah. Like, can I put on a referral or something? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's
Kirk's
the
gonna be on the next
mindset, right? It's the mindset, it's the hustle. So just don't ever feel defeated when someone asks you that question. Answer confidently, but don't ever tell them, oh, I've been in for 30 days. No, why are you entertaining it? Just talk about, we talked about this yesterday in Bowl, what's your intent behind the question? Like, what is it that you're looking for in an agent? So when they ask you, how long have you been in the game? Well, what are you looking for in an agent? And switch the narrative. But yes, I did get asked the question. I completely just diverted the conversation.
Okay. 2 different skills there. Everett, I saw you chuckle when I asked this question initially. So somebody had to ask you if you were new.
I remember my first time the person asked me that. It was for like a $500,000 condo, and they asked me, oh, like, how long have you been in the real estate game? And I was like, oh, just a year. But I had sales to show, and they were telling me, oh, you've done a lot of business. The other agent that came here was like, oh, I got all these celebrities. I got all these people that follow me on Instagram, and I can get your house sold and blah, 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 blah. And she said to him, how many deals have you done? He said, oh, none. So she was like, wait, why should I sell my house? Next. So it just showed me like, wait, all that stuff doesn't even matter about how many people you got or how long you've been in the game. Because like Jay said, I've seen other people, like other agents that's been in the game longer than me, but I'm doing more business than them right now. Not saying that they have that, not trying to, contradict what they've done, but they're not doing as much right now because they're still stuck in the old ways of doing real estate, and they haven't adapted to the new ways. And back then, before COVID, it was different. Now it's a whole different ballgame. So when I tackled that one, that was like the only person that ever asked me that. But like Darrel said, sometimes if we come off as a new agent, a person's gonna, a seller or a buyer, they're gonna sense that. And sometimes I look at people's Instagram and I'm like, buyer's agent. And I'm like, where's the seller's agent?
Right.
Like, I can tell you're new, right? So just don't put yourself out there as you're new. You know, come with confidence. Like, know your stuff. Do some business. Have something to back up. Then nobody's not gonna ask you that.
I'm gonna steal a line from Rodney because I love this one that when he was starting out, he was in the office next to me. I'd hear him talking to people and he'd always say, in my experience. And he'd turn around after he was out the phone. He said, I didn't say in my real estate experience. I said, in my experience.
Absolutely.
All the time. Nobody knew they were his first client. I guarantee you. All right. So leave a little question for time for Q&A, but I want one more question. Start again with Darrel. If you could go back to day one and tell yourself something, what would you tell yourself?
If I can go back to day one and tell myself,
Or what do you wish you'd known day one? Is that an easier way to?
yeah, I mean, I would say probably just piggyback off the last question. I would get involved a lot earlier, just in the office and kind of just trying to meet people. I feel like I spent a lot of time at home trying to figure things out, right? Whether it was on YouTube or Googling questions. I could have just came to the office and asked somebody who has the experience, who's doing business, right?
You're trying to make yourself feel busy rather than.
Yeah, I was just at home trying to figure out, figure things out. I mean, because I got licensed, even though I had another job, I was still trying to figure out real estate, right? Just on my own, like whether it was reading stuff, whether it was a podcast and trying to come up with this master plan. When in all reality, I just had to come to the office, and you come to the office or get on PC call, and it's like, okay, cool guys, pick up the phone, call this, call these physicals today, call expires, or, if you want to circle prospect, let me know the address and I'll send you the contact information. And it kind of just getting busy rather than sitting at home trying to come up with a master plan. And I think a lot of people do, right? And not that it has to be a master plan, but I think a lot of people are just in their heads trying to figure out or chase that shiny object. When it's like, I mean, a lot of the things don't change. You got to get in front of a seller or you got to find a buyer and handle the transaction. So when I finally figured that out, I started picking up the phone. I started calling for sale by owners and people that might have needed a need. And it's not going to be, in that aspect, it's not immediate, just because a for sale by owner, they already made up their mind that they're not using an agent and everything along those lines. They don't want to pay a commission. So it's not like you're going to pick up the phone and somebody's going to give you a listing. You have to follow up. You might have to follow 3-4 weeks. But I think the most important part is you have to have a face-to-face meeting. You're not going to get a for sale by owner over the phone. There's a million agents calling these guys. So if you show up, shake their hand, create a relationship, you're not even going to the first appointment trying to get the listing. You're just trying to make a friend. Then in a couple of weeks, they're going to remember you. You already sent them your thank you card, an extra business card. And after 4 weeks, it's like, yeah, so you're having a little bit of trouble. You have a little bit of a backup plan. And by then, I mean, hopefully, about 4 weeks, they're taking enough pain and they invite you back over for another meeting.
Keeping that house clean for 4 weeks, they're sick of it.
Right. So, but yeah, that's what I would tell, myself if I was starting over, is just kind of get in the office and just actually direct questions, on what you want to know rather than trying to, figure out things on your own. Because even you will get those things. So people have told me, obviously, when you first, I would pick up the phone and call the physical. And I'm like, nah, man, I see people, making money on social media selling real estate. Like, I want to know how to do that. It seems easier. But it's just, it's not like that. I mean, that's the glam work, right? That's after you already got the client and you're selling it. But I think getting the client, that's the grunt work that you got to do in the office, 9 a.m., picking up the phone, the work that nobody sees. And then, you can go show your pretty houses at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and do little property tours and make TikToks. But that's what I was seeing. I thought that was like what we had to do to sell real estate. And it's like, They were probably in the office from 9 to 11, making phone calls and getting hung up on all morning before they actually got in the field.
And
you
took
know,
those pictures in
and-
front of the house.
Yeah, and did all the other stuff.
That's probably
So,
wasn't theirs.
yeah, that's what I would tell myself.
So I heard a couple different things that tie back to everything we've talked about in there. Taking action, doing the calls, doing the follow-up, and not getting in your own way, trying to learn everything before you start doing. So,
Correct.
I mean, that kind of encompasses everything we've talked about today. But Jay, same question for you. What would you go back and tell yourself if you were starting over?
Breathe, like just chill out, Jay. But also like if you build it, they will come. So for me, it was just like, I felt like I was super prepared. Before I even got my first client or the conversation of a first client, there was about 60 days from November to December. And I did Ignite, I did training, I was on podcasts, I was on videos, I was educating myself to be ready for when that client came, right? But I closed the deal in January. I didn't have another successful sale until the summer. So I was just like all over the place, and I just had to sit back and say, Jay, just build the foundation. And once you build it, everyone knows takes the longest to build a foundation. Then the house goes up and you're just, how do we get here? So I would just say to myself, because it took me going through an emotional roller coaster to get to that mindset, day one, breathe, chill. If you focus on building the foundation, everything else will come.
Very cool. I'm gonna ask you a follow-up question on that, because I know a lot of new agents do this. You got that first client, you're doing the whole transaction thing. Did you stop prospecting while you're working and just focus on that client?
Yes.
And that's why you didn't have another deal till summer. So now you know that even though you're working clients, you got to keep that prospecting, keep that funnel open at the top.
And
right?
that was a part of the emotional, because I was just like, this deal can't break. What am I going to do? And my mentor was like, you need to be focusing on finding the next deal. Because if you had another deal in the pipeline, oh, this closing got delayed or this closing didn't happen on closing day. I'm sorry, I'm very emotional about that one still. But they would be like, but you have a closing next week, or you have another client you need to call. But I didn't prospect. My mentor would ask me that all the time. So what did your lead generation look like this week? And I was like, oh, I'm just trying to get this. What did you do? So rookie mistake, or maybe a veteran mistake. I don't know, but it was my mistake and I had to own it.
Awesome. And you learned from it, obviously.
Absolutely.
Obviously, the trajectory you're on now, you learned well.
Right. Definitely.
Everett, what would you go back and tell yourself day one?
I'm just listening to Jay and everything just, I just touched my heart. But the first thing from day one, the thing I would say that I wish I could have done over was just learning how to prioritize my time. I think if I would have did that from day one, a lot of things would have been smoother. Also, learning how to list my buyers and keep track of follow up. Everything was always all over the place. I had so much things going on and I'm doing a job, but I didn't know how to prioritize everything. And until I started learning that and talking to Alicia more, because if you want to talk about prioritizing, she gonna prioritize you. And I did ask her a favor, Alicia, get on me when it comes to that. And she does that for me. But once I started to learn how to do that and start following up, everything started becoming more easier. So I think that was my first thing I would say I would love to go back and learn how to do, and it would have been so smoother for me in the get-go.
Prioritize and have systems for keeping that in track.
Yeah.
And I think you made a great point in there too, that none of you actually said, but having a buddy in the office, having somebody that's holding you accountable, whether it's accountability partner, whether it's a PC coach, whether it's a mentor, having somebody that's on you. So obviously we're all driven, right? You guys are very successful. You wouldn't get there if you didn't do the grind, if you didn't do the hard work, but you also have that somebody else to ask.
But it's okay to ask somebody to do that for you. Keep me accountable. It's necessary. Even if it's at home or if it's in the office, it is necessary.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I did leave a little time for any questions. If we've got Miss Brenda Conley, what question? I need you to come to the mic though. Otherwise I have to repeat it.
Mic check.
I can repeat it.
My question for, it is really to make them say it. So, Darrel, what happened when you got busy? What happened when you end up losing business? What happened when you got busy? What didn't you have in place?
systems and to follow up with certain people. Yeah, I mean, you can get lost with just getting work done, and whether you're working with buyers and listings and whatnot, you always got to be prospecting and following up with new business that's coming in, because at some point, you know, you're going to close all the transactions that you're currently working on, and you're going to try to circle back and go help somebody that needed your help at some point, and they're going to give you the bad news that you're not looking for, that they already done sold their house, even though they asked you for the CMA 2 months ago,
Oh.
Ouch.
but you were busy. So you circle back like, hey, about that CMA, you still like, well, they already sold the house and I bought a new house already. But thanks.
But thanks.
So I keep telling him that because I want him to feel that in his gut.
So
I felt that pain. I
Right.
felt that pain right
And
there.
then Jay.
Oh, you got individual questions.
When did your life change? What conversation that you and I have that you thought you had to be in control of everything? What happened? What changed?
Okay, so preface, so this is why being here is important, and people that give you tough love, because I get tough love, but my life changed. I don't know where we were, but we were at some event, mega camp. We did like some get together at mega camp, and I was talking to Brenda at the table. She was like, how's the business going? I was like, yo, I'm like crazy. I'm like this way, because I'm doing so much work. Like, and the things that I was telling her I was doing, she was like, you don't have a TC? Like, you need a TC for that. And I was like, yeah, but I want to, and she was like, Jay, sit. She said other words that were colorful, right? But she was like, Jay, send the email right now, contact so-and-so right now, and breathe, like take it away. So my life in that respect, I could actually breathe. I'm doing a deal with her right now, and I'm still like, yo, where's her check? Pay this woman. But it just, that's when my life changed. When Brenda gave me that insight, and I already knew about it. It was crazy because I did an interview with this same TC in January of this year. I was like, okay, I'm gonna use you. And here we are. I didn't pick that up until August. But I just felt like this relief. Like I was like, I would wake up in the middle of the night and sweat. Like, oh, I forgot. Oh yeah, it's already done. Oh my God, but life changed when we had that conversation in that same setting. I sent an email and I said, hey, I'm sending you a contract now. Can you take it over at this point? Yes. And I got another one for you on Friday. I need you to take it over at this point. Yes. Like crazy. So TC, transaction coordinator, for those of you that don't know, and don't feel like as a new agent, oh, I'm not busy enough where I can't afford it. It is a expense you need to put on your books so that, and to Darrel's point, because I forget about some people sometimes, I have a whiteboard in my room, which is why my challenge is to get better with systems, but get that TC to do that work for you. And they still educate you along the way, at least my TC does. Like I know what's going on, but it gives you time back to focus on that. And the analogy that I use in that, and thank you so much, Brenda, is I used to work in banking. I would work with partners, financial advisors from these big corporate places. And when I would go to talk to them about business, I could never get the financial advisor. I would talk to their client advisor, I think it was called at that time. And I was like, where's so-and-so? Oh, he's at Topgolf, or he's at the golf course here. I was like, well, what is he doing here? He has to listen. He's getting more business. I'm doing his work. I'm sending leads, I'm sending gifts, I'm doing all of this stuff, I'm writing contracts so that he can actually go out and do what he's supposed to do or what he's good at doing, which is building relationships and getting more clients. So get a TC if you do not have one in your business.
Systems and leverage, all good stuff.
So one now for Everette, I want to give Everette a lot of credit for leaving his job. So I'm gonna be a little biased here. He got that New York hustle. So he left his job and made a mess. I mean, he made a mess, but now he's making more money now than he would have made in a year at his job. Sometimes you gotta step out on faith. Okay, I'm gonna go.
Faith or fear?
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you, Brenda.
Faith or fear, you choose.
Awesome. Anybody else have any questions for our panel today? Yes, Felicia.
I have a question about your support systems, because all of you guys are full-time. So the bills at the house don't stop, the kids still want to eat every day. You know, they still need shoes, you know. Talk about for new agents that struggle with going back and forth from corporate to doing this full-time. If you can, what does your support system look like outside of this office?
I'm gonna paraphrase
can I-
and repeat that real quick for the microphone. Felicia is asking, because the bills don't stop, you're a new agent, you still gotta feed the kids and pay the mortgage and everything else. What support systems did they have in place?
My support system, and she don't even know, but she really is a big support, is my fiance. Cause if she don't hold on that house, I can't really function. And that's one of my big support, for the shit.
Yeah, for me, it's the hubs, which is super crazy. In the sense of like just, sorry, Black men stepping up, like my husband is like the GOAT, but he pushed me into this, not pushed me into this career, but supported me when I wanted to get into this career. But of course, to keep it on track, the answer is the husband. But for new agents, like I'm very big on having a plan before you get into this business, researching it and know what you're getting into. But I had a pretty solid business plan and I had a pretty solid financial plan so that I didn't have to stress about where my next deal came from, because that leads to doing unethical things and desperation when you're meeting these clients, which they can see that. But I think if you have that in place, it allows you to naturally be great at what you do. But if I didn't have that support at home, and it's also my boys, my 11-year-old is, if he doesn't go to the NFL, he is going to be in real estate. Like he said it, he was like, "Fine, if I don't go to the NFL, I'm gonna be a real estate agent." So my husband really holds, right, we can do both. My husband really does hold down the fort in supporting and making sure I was able to focus solely on this. And he took care of the home when I was outside the home.
Gotcha. So my support system is gonna be a little different. I don't have a wife and kids or anything like that. So, all I have to do is real estate. Now, in terms of leaving, your past job, and, bills still coming and things of nature, I think before you even start, you just got to know what your income need is on a month-to-month basis, right? So that doesn't mean every time you sell a house, and you get an $8,000 check or whatever it is, you got $8,000 to spend. You pay yourself whatever you need that month. And you leave the rest, where it needs to be, just for your business expenses or, whenever something comes up. But in terms of like just support at home, it'll still just be family, but it's not, wife and kids, anything like that. I would say even my friends too, some of my friends are still in the direct sales industry and they're competitive and things of nature. And I know when I left that industry and told them that I wasn't, going to pursue it anymore, I was going to get into real estate. They would always say something like, "Dude, if you don't become somebody in real estate, you better just come back and, work with us." Like, so it's kind of like just more that, competitive nudge, like don't go to real estate just to say you have your real estate license and, list our houses when we say we want to buy or sell. Like, go out there and build a business, which is why I also wanted to build a business outside of my friends and family, because I wanted to build something worth having, not just, "Oh, my friend wants to sell a house, so I got it on my mom." It's like, can I build a business outside of friends and family?
So that sustainability.
Yeah. So then when they
business.
look at, your business, they see that you build something successful that's not relying on, "Oh, you just have your license, so whenever we're ready, like, you can sell our house." So that'll probably be my support, which, I know is a little different, but that's pretty much what keeps me going.
Yeah, I think that's a great point as far as the financial planning aspect of it. That's something Darrel and I were just talking about yesterday, where we'll see agents that are coming into the business and they're trying to replace their current income, but as soon as they get that check, they go out and buy a Lexus and do this, and then you build a bigger life, but you didn't replace your past income, so you still got to count on that paycheck coming every month.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen agents do that, and
We all
that's
have.
completely wrong. Like what Jay was saying, when she had that sale, she made that check, but she didn't have any business going along that within the months. So, if you don't have anything like a pipeline, if you don't got to sell it and buy a pipeline, if you don't got a good team around you, family, it doesn't work. So like Darrel doesn't really have a wife and a kid, but he still got family, he still got friends he could go to. Also Jay, me as well. My friends are mostly in New York, but they still support me down here. But like I said earlier, my biggest support is my fiance, because she is the one that pushed me into this.
So I'm just going to throw my personal in here, just because I'm going to reiterate what you guys said before, because my husband couldn't care less about real estate. He wanted to shop for our house on Zillow. Still salty. But come into this office, if you don't have that support system at home, know that there is a lot of support in this building.
For sure.
If you're starting to feel rejected or dejected, come to this, come be around the people that can lift you back out of that if you don't have that, at home. Because that's, you don't want to go down that path and then not feel like you have some support somewhere.
Yeah,
Be
get
ready what
around
they
them.
tell you, because they're not gonna say it's okay. Shay is not gonna say that, Alicia's not gonna say that, and Brenda is gonna say more than that,
And
but
don't
expect
quit.
what you get.
And don't quit your job just like out the blue, because I know everybody heard that I quit. Yes, I did do it, but I had a plan. And my plan wasn't just one sale. Before I quit, I said, let me have 4 at least, then have a pipeline. If I didn't learn that how to keep a pipeline, then I would have been doing the same thing. But once I knew, like, I got this person still ready to buy. This person ready to sell. And the seller side, you still got to work, because that doesn't come overnight. But once you know, like, I can replace that check with this buyer, I can still take care of everything, and I'm still okay. So that's when you just before you step out, have a plan though.
Yeah.
Don't just step out with one sale and then make that check and then I'm okay. Have a couple.
Awesome. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for, first of all, you guys, but can you speak on branding yourself or, in your mind, what made you stand out as a
I'm
real
me.
estate agent or brand?
I'm me. I don't try to hide. I don't try to be nobody or talk any type of different way. I'm still gonna, when I come to a seller or whatever, yes, I talk professional. Like, you might hear me sometime in the office or joking around and stuff, but when I'm in front of a seller or a buyer, I talk professional. But I also let them know, like, I'm not no idiot and you can't run me. So I try to take control of that person, because I've heard people, and it's happened to me before. It's definitely happened to me before, where I would let buyers run me and whatever. But I also had to click in myself, like, wait a minute, I'm the one writing the contract. So I just try to be me. I don't try to be nobody else.
My term for Everett in the office is passionate. He's very passionate about his business.
I think it's really important to build a brand. For me, yes, I'm a real estate agent, but I'm a brand. I don't say I'm a real estate agent. I am a whole brand. You will see me with my brand on. You will see me always publicizing my brand. But I would say definitely have a brand, stick to it. And so I'm trying to do reels or whatever. So I saw this reel, and what it was saying was the market is oversaturated or something, but they don't have a you. So yeah, the real estate market is very much oversaturated. How are you going to be different? How are you going to stand out? Not be different, actually. How are you just going to stand out to make it yours? And stick to that. Don't try to be something else. Don't try to be those big mogul agents on social media, because you can get caught up in that life and think you're supposed to be doing that. No, you're supposed to be doing what you're supposed to be doing at your time with your own vision. So have the brand. It is very important. I push branding. I do business consulting on the side, and a lot of people get lost in that because they're not focused on their business and their brand. And there's a difference between a business and a brand. So focus on the brand, focus on vision, and you should be good.
Don't try to be the other brand.
Yeah.
Be your brand.
And your brand is Just Jay Realty.
Absolutely, all day, Just Jay. It's Just Jay Consulting, Just Jay Realty, all of that is Jay.
Yeah, I mean, about branding and whatnot, I piggyback off these guys, as Everett mentioned, just being yourself. It's just, I think some people overcomplicate a brand. It's literally just what you're known for, right? Like what are you bringing? And, obviously you can, if we're talking about digital print branding or anything along those lines, the main aspect is, what are you known for? When I go to meet somebody new for the first time, I'm going to be either in a suit, a jacket, and whatnot. It's just what I'm known for. I'm not going to show up any kind of way. It's a standard, and I think you just stick to it. For new agents out there, I wouldn't get too caught up in that so early on. And I think that happens a lot. People are caught on their brand, their websites, their business cards.
Alicia calls it analysis paralysis.
Yeah, all of that stuff. It's important, but I think those are things that can help take your business to the next level. But you got to get in business first. You know what I'm saying? You got to get out there and find a client, because it doesn't matter if you got the best brand in the world if you have no clients. I don't even know if you get a good brand if you have no clients. So, But yeah, that's that, I wouldn't overcomplicate that. It's just, what's your standard, what are you known for, and sticking to it, but I wouldn't overthink it.
Awesome, awesome. Yes, one more question and we're getting on time.
So hey, what's going on, guys? So Stitches, looks like I'm probably guys haven't seen me. I'm Joel. So just like you guys, it feels good to hear that from you guys. Because I can relate to you guys. Especially Everette and Darrel. I was a dual agent as well, and actually yesterday I decided, just like you, Everette, to take real estate full time. Kind of like what you said, Everette, is to start with that plan, right? Don't just automatically quit. So now, kind of what you said is kind of have that buyer pipeline, where I'm actually nurturing those relationships and things of that nature. So my question is basically to you guys. It's kind of like a broad question. What's your best advice or best resources for me to get like listings? I know it's kind of a broad question, but that would definitely help me a lot. Each of you guys can share that.
So I'm gonna for the microphone real quick. Joel, the clapping was because Joel has just actually made the decision to go full-time in real estate. We're proud of him for that. And the question was, what is the best advice for getting listings?
Well, what I'd like to do is Zillow. I go on Zillow when I do for sale by owners. We talk about expires a lot. That's not really my niche. I don't know why. I kind of like the challenge of for sale by owners, but that's what I go for. And just also talking to people, letting them know that you do real estate, getting yourself out there. Because if you're in a neighborhood or a subdivision or something, those are going to be future businesses as well. But just talking to people.
I just say come from a place of like contribution and education. Educate people. I don't know if you're really big on social media or wherever your sphere is, but educate them about what's going on in the market, the benefits of potentially selling or looking at equity. But the listings that I got came from me educating people, and I got the listings from that. And I focused on I did farming, so geo farming. So I really focused in on a certain area and put my energy in that for listing specifically, and then it started to prove for me.
I feel like it's what I've been talking about: FSBOs, expires, absentees, just getting on the phone, calling those guys. But rather than just calling them, just trying to set an appointment, finding a way to get, a face-to-face meeting, and then just nurture it. You're not going to get a listing by making one phone call, but you're also not really going to get a listing over the phone anyway. So you just got to find a way to get in front of people. Obviously, there's a bunch of different avenues you can go about it. That's how I went about it, right? But I would say, yeah, absentees, expired, FSBOs.
I'd also say to sum it up, do you have a mentor? Are you in PC?
So Alicia.
Yeah, so there we go.
Alicia
You're definitely on the right track.
She's been great, and Nasha's me and Denise went to the same college together,
Oh, sweet.
and she's been a great help as well. So I think
Build the foundation. You on your way.
Having a mentor. So we're running out of time here, guys. Any last minute thoughts or feelings you want to share with the?
I have one question.
I said that was the last-
Already sounds a little bit. What do you think as a new agent, a successful daily schedule looks like? In order to be successful, what does your daily schedule look like as a new agent, or even from what you heard, or like from what you do
The question was, what's your daily schedule as a new agent? What should that look like
to be successful?
to be successful?
Well, I could work on it a little bit more. I'm not gonna lie. But one thing I would do is get up a little bit more earlier, start planning out. Like you said, I like to jump on script practice. Sometimes I don't because I'm driving the kids or whatever, or doing something in the house. But I like to jump on script practice, get in tune with that, start planning out my cold calling within at least 3 hours. And also knowing that once I get those buyers out the way and get them to, because there's systems that we have that we can generate stuff to buyers without we having, it's called an automatic search, and they'll get automatic email. So you can set a buyer up, get them showing, get them getting houses to their emails regarding their buying criteria. while you're focusing on next business. And trust me, they might get some stuff that doesn't match necessarily what they want, but it's gonna be close, but eventually they're gonna call you. So once you start getting those stuff, and then after I get those things out the way, it's showing appointments. But I'm telling you right now, when you start setting up these buyers on that automatic search, that's a big help. That's definitely a big help, but you don't have to worry about being right there in front of the computer all day, every day. You just go about your business regular,
Leveraging the technology.
leveraging the technology.
Excellent.
It's not gonna be anything different from what he said, but to change it up a little bit is get out the house. Get out the house and just go somewhere. I've started going to a coffee shop. I'll have on a realtor shirt with all my information on the back of the shirt. So if they don't want to talk to me, they take a picture of the back of my shirt and call me later. But go to a coffee shop, walk around in places with a brand on and just be there. For me, I'm more, even though it doesn't seem like it to most people, but I'm a more introvert naturally. I don't like to go out and talk to people. I don't like to go out and cold call. I'd rather them come to me. So reverse bold 100 is life for me. I got that information yesterday, but just go out and put yourself out there for people to actually talk to you. Don't get so caught up staying at home or behind the camera, because if you're a new agent, how will they know? You know, that's a little blurb, but they will not know. So brand yourself. This goes into the branding conversation, but you got to be out and about, coffee shops, Target, church, wherever you are, just be present. Don't get so caught up with being behind the scenes and at home. Nothing's gonna happen at your house. It should be happening at someone else's, apparently.
No, I'm sorry, on J Roll, I was just showing Ronnie this, so I was just picking up the ham and turkey and stuff for the thing. And I showed Ronnie, I just took the picture of the back of somebody's shirt. Yeah. I literally just did. So that works. That works.
I'll give you one more tip too. Like, even though you might not have a shirt or nothing, right? Or any type of real estate gear on, just get on the phone. Get on the phone with a client in like a store, gas station. Go into like if you got an appointment, I'm pretty sure you're at an appointment waiting to see the doctor or dentist or whatever. Start going through your clients. Get on the phone. Because trust me, somebody in that office is gonna hear that conversation. And they're gonna be like, oh, you do real estate? Automatic business.
And they can see you. Just get on the phone and talk to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know who you're talking to.
They don't
Creative.
They don't know who you're talking to.
Till your phone rings.
Yeah.
Silent mode, please.
All right, Darrel, let's wrap this up. Daily schedule.
I mean, I'll keep it brief and not complicated. I think if you just give yourself 2 hours to lead generate every day, whether you do it in the morning, afternoon, I mean, do it whatever works for you. But just set that, that time aside. I mean, that's what I was doing when I first started, 2 hours every day, consistently. And it was all different times, right? I'm not gonna say I was up super early and doing it from 9 to 11 every day. Sometimes it was at 9, sometimes it was at 12 in the afternoon. Sometimes it was in the evening time when people got off from work from 5 to 7. But just give yourself those 2 hours, because that's gonna give you time to talk to, 50 strangers at least. Half of them might, tell you to beat it, but after a couple of weeks of calling, you get 4 appointments. You might have 4 listings to start off the year. So I said, just give yourself 2 hours, whatever works for you, not try to change your schedule too much until you got to come to the office at 8:30 and get your calls ready and start at 9 from 11. That'll be great. But to make it easier just on everybody, just set aside 2 hours.
All right, for real, final thoughts. Everett, go.
My final thoughts is just get out there, guys. Don't be scared to do the business, and don't be scared to meet people. Don't be scared to ask questions. I'm not a person, I don't know it all, but I love to ask questions. I used to be in school sometimes and people used to be like, oh, that's a dumb question. But guess what? They'll be the same one that always wanted to ask the same question. But don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to get into groups. And come to the office.
Great advice. Jay.
Fear or faith, you choose. For me, it was faith. I stepped out on it and I haven't looked back. And just invest in yourself. Whatever that looks like, always make sure you're investing in yourself.
Darrel, take it home.
Yeah, I would say just get busy. And kind of just to give you something to think about, you know, it's probably been one of the strongest real estate markets we had in a while, and people are making, you know, more money than they ever made. So it's kind of like, you know, take that into reality, right? This is your chance to obviously get in the game and get things going well, because, you know, nobody knows where the real estate market is going, right? And if top producing agents are saying, you know, 2021, I made the most money I ever made in my career, it's like, you kind of just look at your numbers and compare them, and you kind of you can think to yourself, right, and say, well, if it wasn't 2021, would I have done, you know, this well? And if there's something that, you know, you need to think about internally, kind of just should push you to even learn more and kind of get busy and kind of just try to take advantage of the market. You know, you got to ride the wave while it's high. So I would say right now is the best time to kind of get going.
Awesome, guys. Thank you all so much. I've heard consistency. I've heard follow-up. I've heard get out there and do it. I've heard don't be scared of yourself. So excellent advice. I hope that a lot of our new agents, I've got a ton of advice out of this. I think that it's very helpful for them. So I appreciate your time today. Big round of applause, guys. Thank you.
So Miss Harris was popping on your IG. Who is that?
Well,
Miss Harris.